Get it. Get it. Get it, Sabrina.
Okay, I'm going to try my very best to explain this in the best way possible because I'm not a professional. I literally just decided to do this on my own. First thing that you have to do when doing flooring is putting an underlayment. And you want to do this to reduce, there are different kinds of underlayments, but the one that I use is to reduce, I think it's noise and for moisture as well. The one that I got in particular has a little sticky panel on the side of it, so you can kind of stick the different ones together as you lay them next to each other, and that way they don't move as much. So that's the first step, the first thing that I did to kind of get this process going. You of course want to make sure that your floor is clean, it's not super dusty, or there's not like rocks or stuff underneath. You want to have it as smooth as possible, basically. I picked up this flooring installation kit from Home Depot along with this rubber mallet, and you can find these like all around where the laminate flooring stuff is. And I also got a laminate tile cutter. The first row of the flooring I feel like is the most difficult because you're just kind of learning how to do it. You got to make sure, of course, that you have spacers. They're the little black things that I'm putting against the wall. You don't want to put your flooring directly next to the wall or against the wall because you want to leave room for it to expand just in case. The flooring that I'm using is the click and lock type. So you literally just have to click it together, lock it, and then you kind of tap it with the rubber mallet just to make sure it's nice and tight, and you keep it going all the way. And by the way, when you're doing this, you want to make sure that you're working, at least this is what I've heard, that you want to make sure that you're working from left to right, just to make sure that everything looks nice and cohesive. Now that we're towards the end of the first row, this is the part where you have to cut. Instead of placing your panel down the right way, you want to turn it the opposite way and measure it and cut it that way. And the reason that I say that is because if you cut it the right way, it's not going to end up clicking and locking to the other panel. It makes more sense while you're doing it and as you're watching it, but it's kind of hard to explain. You just want to make sure you turn your panel over, cut it, and then you can turn it back the right way. And I know even thinking about using any tool like this to cut stuff or doing your own flooring can seem a little bit intimidating. I was intimidated at first as well, but once I got the hang of it, it was actually really easy. It's just very time consuming and very tiring. Once you're done with your first row, you want to make sure that you start off your second row with a half cut piece. You can, I mean, it's up to you. It depends on how you want it to look. You can do a full piece on your second row if you want to, but the way I wanted my flooring to look, I wanted it to be, I don't know if there's a certain name for it, but I wanted it to look like one laminate tile was long, the other one was short, then long, short, long, short. I basically didn't want the end lines of the flooring to meet. I wanted it to kind of be like a zigzag kind of thing. When I started my flooring, it was already nighttime, so I did half of it at night and the other half I did it the next morning. If it's your first time doing flooring, be prepared to be there for a few hours because it is extremely, like I said, time consuming and it's tiring. I would suggest doing what I did if it's your first time and do half of it one day, half the other. Another thing that I recommend that you guys get if you're doing this is some kind of knee pads. I didn't even think about that. I got the bare minimum supplies that I needed and I just went home because I wanted to get this done. But get some knee pads because the next day my knees were killing me and they were a little bit bruised, so get some knee pads. But here I'm just doing everything that I mentioned before, just following that same pattern. The click and lock laminate panels just make it so much easier, and seriously, once you do the first few rows and you get it down, the next however many rows are going to be so easy and so fast to do. I still suggest you guys get, a helping hand. I did get a helping hand for the first half and it made it just a lot easier with the cutting and everything, so I do suggest you guys get some help. The flooring is nice and done, but of course it's still dusty and dirty, so we gotta sweep it all up. And I wouldn't suggest you guys do this with your stuff inside just because there's dust everywhere. I just had to move my stuff in there because it was kind of in the way where it was at before, and I was getting a new mattress anyway, so I didn't mind dust being everywhere. Just a little side note though. So I'm just sweeping up here, making sure to get as much dust off of the floor as possible. I Swiffered a part of where my bed was going to be, just a little bit to get most of that dust off. Moved it there and then started to clean up the rest of the floor. I wouldn't suggest using a Swiffer for this kind of floor, for laminate flooring in general. A microfiber mop and then some laminate shine floor cleaner. I just found some at Target and I used that. You're gonna see that in a little bit. Looks a lot better, nice and clean and nice and shiny. The Swiffer it didn't work for me.